Tom, I wanted to start with this story today because when I saw this, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be trouble. Starting Monday, all federal employees who are still working from home will begin the transition to back in-person work. And then when asked, well, what about those who don't want to come back, the minister responsible, the Treasury Board president, said she didn't. What she did was not specify what the consequences might be for anyone who does, in fact, refuse to go back to work. What do you think is likely to happen here?
I don't know. Anybody who's ever had a kid will talk to you about the importance of explaining the consequences. And I can't believe that Mona Falche, who, by the way, is a very competent minister in Trudeau's government. She's very good. She's out of the Ottawa area. And I can't believe that her staff allowed her to go into a press conference when that super simple, basic question was, of course, going to be asked, and she went in without an answer to it. I still can't believe that. So there's a little piece here that's interesting as well, because most of these people are not even being told that they're going back to the office 5 days a week. I think everybody has realized that it's quite easy to monitor. When people have a certain amount of work to do and you can see whether or not they've actually done it, there's no reason to chain them to a desk in a building, in a hall. So you can absolutely let them, work from home a few days a week. They're saying that they want them back to the office 2 or 3 days a week. I know people who work, one who works at a big financial institution, a very measurable job. You have to do this. And they've been told they're coming back 1 day a week because it's worked out so well for everybody to just be working from home. Because, again, the employers have figured out how to monitor and know whether or not people are getting the job done.
I'm looking at the story. I love this in terms of why this is going on, why they're being told to go back to work. And the minister said it's needed because of, quote, inconsistencies in remote work policies across federal departments. Now, you think to yourself about the various federal departments that have had such a tough time of late, and I get the inconsistencies part, but there's no proof that it had anything to do with them not being in the office.
Yeah, and that might be part of the explanation why the federal government is completely falling apart. Because, again, this is the type of thing that employers in the private sector have figured out. I mean, you're going to be measuring. You've got, I'm the chairman of the board of a volunteer organization that's called Jour de la Terre, Earth Day Canada. And, it's got lots of employees. And when the pandemic hit, we figured it out, and we said we're going to be able to monitor their work, and we'll know whether they're getting their jobs done. And you do that. It's not the hardest thing in the world. But obviously, when you're the people who brought in the Phoenix pay system, everything's complicated.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears. I want to talk about this distinct change of tone around the provinces trying to strike a deal with the feds when it comes to healthcare funding.
Great point, yeah.
So would you say an agreement is forthcoming? Are we close?
Yes, and interestingly enough, I got some inside information about a meeting at a major bank in Toronto before Christmas, where a senior Quebec minister, and I know which one, simply, blurbed that, no, it's okay, we've already got our deal with Ottawa for the healthcare money. So when everybody was, rending their garments a few days ago, when Doug Ford said, well, I think I'm just going to make a deal with Trudeau because what he's asking is reasonable, the common front was falling apart. People were guessing that Legault was going to be all angry. My thinking is that Legault probably tipped Ford that he's already got his deal and Ford better get on board because there was no reason not to do this. And by the way, it was so funny. There's a fellow named Saul Zanetti. He's a very good M&A for Quebec, studied down out of the Quebec City region. Well, he was going nuts, saying this is a betrayal of Quebec, and Legault has chickened out, and, this is terrible. He's going to go along with Trudeau taking over healthcare. The only thing that the feds want is information that Quebec already publishes, and we're going to get more than $1 billion a year from the feds to help pay for healthcare. Duh. I'd take the deal. So, and same thing with Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, going through the motions of complaining about this. This is a loss of Quebec autonomy over healthcare. Look, the basic healthcare deal already implies a loss of some of your complete autonomy over healthcare because the provinces agreed from the start that healthcare would be free, universal, publicly owned, transportable from one province to the other. These are the pillars of our healthcare system. So there's no way to argue that Legault caved or that he, threw in the towel. I think that Trudeau also is clearly trying to make things easy for himself if he does decide to pull the plug for an election this year. And so this is one of the big impediments that was on his runway. Can I just tell you, before Christmas, Trudeau said this. He said, I will not be putting any more money into a health system that's broken. We're going to change the whole system first. Yeah, right. Now all it is a reporting mechanism with the provinces. So obviously he knows that this is something that he can't keep as a problem if he wants to be able to hold an election, and he's just going to settle the deal with the provinces.
So in the past, Tom, I know we've talked a lot about Omar Alghabra and the fact that we question how it is he has managed to hang on to his job. And I know you're not a big fan of Sean Fraser's either, right, our immigration minister.
Right. Well, it's nothing personal. He's a very nice guy. But he's just has zero experience or expertise to do that job.
So now this whole idea, the new targets set by him, the government's going to bring in those million and change immigrants over the next however many years, getting mixed reviews. And I know he's insisted and he's made the point over and over again, we're doing this because, of course, we need to do this. It'll mean more people in the workforce and we'll have more housing available. But I'm wondering what the pushback is going to be, because I thought the whole idea is here, we've already acknowledged the fact we need more immigration here. Why is there pushback now?
Well, it's the numbers that are involved, and they seem to think that you bring in 500,000 new people a year, and all they do is take jobs and contribute to make things better by pumping more money into the economy. But that's 500,000 people a year who need health care, who need housing, who need social, programs, who need education facilities for their kids. And so the ramp up to take care of them, because Sean's theory, long term, he's saying a generation from now, people will be happy because instead of just having, a bunch of old Canadians around, we're going to have these new, younger families coming in from all around the world, and they'll keep the place, the pump primed. And there's an argument to be made about that. But every time they make that argument, they forget to talk about the other half of it, which is there's a lot of costs involved in this.
All right. This is one of those things, where when the discussion gets a little heated here and you come out and question those numbers, the immediate reaction is, well, wait a second, are you anti-immigration? So,
oh, absolutely. This is the reflex, the emotional answer to this. And we're very emotional in our debates here in Quebec and in Canada. And so you don't want to be caught on the wrong side of that. And by the way, precisely because what you just said is true, Aaron, this is something that Trudeau knows how to do brilliantly well. He did an incredible job of defining his adversary when it was Andrew Scheer. He did a magnificent job, even though it was a bit wonkier and a little bit harder to deliver, against Aaron O'Toole. With regard to Scheer, it was a woman's right to choose. With regard to O'Toole, all questions about guns and all questions about whether or not he was an anti-vaxxer and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's the type of thing that the Liberals are brilliant at, defining their adversary negatively. So what he's also trying to do here, because, by the way, a lot of people who played by the rules, got their families into Canada, and it took years, they're not thrilled, about the situation on Roxham Road and the way things are going. But overall, Trudeau's pitch and the Liberal pitch has always been far superior to that of any other party with regard to ethnic communities and recent arrivals. And this is something that Trudeau knows how to do. He knows how to talk to them. So if he can, provoke the reaction that he's already provoked, like there's a guy named Martel, one of the conservative MPs from the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean area, this week he said, well, this person's an illegal immigrant because they had come through Roxham Road. You can't say that they're illegal. It's an irregular crossing, but it's not illegal because you're allowed to come in and ask for asylum. So this is the type of thing where the Liberals are going to do their best, and they're very good at it, as I say, at painting the Conservatives as them being anti-immigrant, going to your earlier point.
But I wonder if that's the case, does someone like a Pierre Poilievre, who's been so good at, picking at, just inflation, talking about the economy, whatever else, does he risk making this an issue in an election, this whole immigration issue?
The Conservatives cannot win the next election unless they win a bunch of seats in the GTA. That's the Greater Toronto Area. Let's put that in perspective. The Greater Toronto Area has 50 seats, okay, in Parliament. The whole province of Quebec has 68 seats. So you can just imagine the importance of the Greater Toronto Area. More than half of the people who live in Toronto,
immigrants,
were not born in Canada.
Right.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. It's not as if one of their parents might have been an immigrant. No, they weren't born in Canada. So if Poilievre gets it in his head that he can somehow come up with anti-immigration policies, it's a sure loser. And his best advisors, people like John Baird, will never let him do it. But what will happen is Trudeau's going to try to portray him as anti-immigrant.
Right.
And then the fight will be on.
Interesting. All right.
Tom, before we let you go, I just want to make sure you're saving us a spot in line to get the bagel-inspired Nike sneakers, right? You're there now downtown?
Yeah, Tom's been lined up since last night, right, Tom?
Of course.
Yeah. I thought I saw you there in the video from earlier today. Yeah.
Okay, good.